This is why I returned the Sony FX3, and it's a true story. I actually bought the camera the day that it was announced. I was, excited like everyone was because I had the FX9, which I'm shooting on here, and I have bought so many of the Sony cameras over the years. I had the A7S, I had the A7S II, I had the A7R II, I had the A7 III, I had the A7R IV. I mean, I have gotten a lot of these cameras over the years because, it's the new features come out and the incremental upgrades and whatever. And I was waiting for the right mirrorless camera that was going to have the updated codecs, which have been, the real reason that I've stuck around with Sony, even though it feels like at this point they probably do need to innovate a little bit. But on professional sets, the FX3 is something you just see everywhere today. Even though it's small, even though it's really more prosumer, it's really at its heart a mirrorless camera. But I think the practicality of it, the size of it, and what you're able to accomplish, just it has a big image despite being a small box. And so it ticks a lot of those boxes for things that people want. And the price point, while still expensive for a camera that's 5-6 years old, is very accessible for people who are, just getting out of school or something like that, and they're looking at buying their first camera. If you're coming in to check out the cameras and you're new here, welcome. My name is Remzi Atassi. I'm a filmmaker based in Chicago. I make videos about, the art, the technology, and the business of creativity and filmmaking. Thanks for checking it out. So here's why I returned it. Despite, giving it a lot of praise, the reality is when it came out, the FX3 was a near successor really to the A7S III, which had come out only a few months ago. I was ready to go with one of these smaller cameras as like a sort of a B or C camera, a gimbal camera. But when I got the FX3, I didn't like a few things about it. I really didn't like a few things about it. For one, it lacked the viewfinder, and I use the viewfinder a lot because even when I'm in, more built out scenarios, I just think it's easier to see when you're outside, and I like to be able to frame things that way. And when I'm just run and gun or solo operator, which I don't do as much these days, I would much rather have the A7S III than a bigger camera because I can just maneuver around with a small lens. Sometimes I don't even use a monitor because I can just use the viewfinder and I can see what's going on, pretty effectively, especially if I'm just hand holding it and using IBIS and all that. So when the FX3 came out, it was basically just identical to the A7S III, but it was missing the viewfinder. And then, the form factor was a little bit different. It's got, the screw mounts, and it's got the tally lights, and it's got the top handle. But the reality with the A7S was you could get all those things. You could put it in a small cage. You could get the XLR attachment, which I don't really record audio in that camera all that much because I think the audio in both the FX3 and the A7S III is pretty trash. And when I bought it, it was a completely new product. Now it's funny how quickly these product cycles change, and once something becomes popular or the main thing, how powerful that can be, which is why I think Sony's at risk really in that they haven't been willing to cannibalize their cameras. And so the competition, it definitely has, and I wouldn't be surprised to see something very new from them this year. They're gonna have to be a little innovative, otherwise I don't think people will stick around for a whole other cycle of this, despite any investment in the lenses or any other aspect of it, because at some point people kind of want to have some of those features, especially if you're shooting content that has a lot of different demands. Initially, I was looking at it against the A7S, and I literally had the FX3, and I remember it was I was in my garden, and I was getting a few shots with my dogs, and I was like, I can't see anything. I don't have the viewfinder, and I was like, the pedigree of the A7S actually was a very established camera, and the A7S II even, which had the old codecs, was really in demand. People were using it all the time. So I kind of was thinking you probably want the camera that has the brand buy-in. The FX3 was brand new, which is really funny because it just goes to show you how wrong you sometimes can be about things. And especially with this stuff, a lot of times you kind of make a gamble because you want to have the thing that's popular. So they were the same, and I felt good about the decision, but then within, I think, a year, they really started diverging the firmware, which was just tragic to me because, like I had said, I bought it initially and I sent it back because I was like, I don't think anyone's gonna use this, and I was wrong. And then as they split the firmware more and more, it became kind of frustrating. Now, fortunately, they've snapped back the firmware on the A7S III, so, I mean, timecode was the main thing. Now it can do timecode, and the LUTs, you know, it's nice. I use that part of it. I don't really care as much about like the big 6. I mean, I wish it had the shutter angle. That would be nice, but at this point, I don't think they're gonna give that to us. They're probably eyeing the exits and looking for the next things. But the truth is, and I tell this to people all the time, the image is identical. There is no difference between the two. And so the A7S III is actually kind of my favorite camera because I still use it for photos, but like I shoot with it video on the gimbal. I mean, I probably put more hours on it than anything else that I've used. And I use all aspects of it. I use the viewfinder, I strip it down, I rig it up, whatever, and it works great. Do I regret returning the FX3? It would be nice to have, but I see no reason to take it right now, especially that, you know, the successor is imminent. So I will probably go down that road when the evolution, you know, comes and the time approaches. But for now, I'm happy. I'm happy with the A7S III, and I almost, you know, psychologically, I'm kind of I refuse to budge on it. It's not even really a money thing. I mean, that's the thing that's crazy is how affordable all these cameras are at this point, especially compared to what you had to be doing, you know, 10 or 15 years ago. They've just come a long way, and now again, I think Sony's got to kind of snap back and catch up if they want to be able to stay relevant in the next couple of years. I think the real lesson is that in an industry that wants to sell you the next thing and is really only concerned about, you know, upgrades and marketing and making money, like these are the videos that people watch because it's, you know, a very popular topic. It just doesn't matter. I mean, it's hit a level of saturation on this stuff that there's really no reason to upgrade except for somebody's gonna hire you for that. I mean, if you can get away with what you've got, you know, live and die by the old tools, like save your money and try and make more work that's interesting, or invest your time into the stuff that you're creating, that's gonna be a much more fruitful lane. And then the toys are always there, and you know, you can always rent the stuff that you need, but knowing how to maximize what you have is definitely more important. And you know, you have a great kind of negative image on the FX3 or the A7S III, a lot that you can work with. And you know, if you're doing work in the grade, they're all going to be indistinguishable from even, you know, the most expensive cameras, the Aries and the, you know, the Venice and the Red and all that. It's going to be totally indistinguishable in the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing. It's more just about like the lane that you use to get there. So if the headline is, I returned a $4,000 camera for a worse one, I mean, I guess some people could look at it that way. For me, it's been more practical, and I think ultimately it comes down to what you can use, what you need to achieve like the vision that you're going for, you know, as a creative or an artist, or just the things that are most relevant to you in your business. With that said, I actually have built a few looks for Sony cameras, but other cameras too. I've got 10 of these looks I'm giving away for free, LUTs that you can apply to, you know, your grader as a starting point in camera. They're linked in the description, so if you are interested in checking those out. I also have film overlays and power grades that I sell. If you're interested in supporting the channel, Blu-rays of my films, you can check those out linked as well. I actually shot my most recent project, a lot of it on the A7S III with anamorphic lenses. You can check out a couple few frames here. And if you're in Chicago, we are screening this film on March 11th, so come by and grab tickets. Of course, let me know what you think about the debate. If you're using the FX3, what you're looking forward to, interested to see in the comments, you know, who's got the A7S III? I don't know if there's many of us out there, the FX3, of which there are many, so let me know what you think. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe.